everybody, Jennifer from Scrapping Under the Influence. I am back with another project. This time I have used the absolutely gorgeous Echo Park New Day paper. So what I've done with this one is an album that you can do as a standalone, or I've got kind of a cool front element. So this is, not even joking, 81 hand-rolled flowers mounted on a piece of chipboard and then covered with an acetate box to protect the flowers because it looks really neat. I don't know, as soon as I saw this paper, it just popped in my head that this is what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure if it was going to work, and honestly, it worked so much better than I could have even hoped. I can't even tell you. So this whole flower section sits on a belly band that goes around the folio, okay? So this just slides up and off like so, and then you can kind of get a better look at the construction here. I realized after I had this all put together, I actually had turned my flowers wrong. I had them going in rainbow order, and then that caused the stripe pattern. And when I was looking at it to figure out which way I was going to orient this, I wasn't thinking, that had been my plan. So I just kind of went where the stripes themselves looked good to me. So it is in rainbow order, but not exactly like I had planned on it being. But that's okay. It looks awesome. So this is just one of the cut aparts from the collections mounted on one of the solids, and then a piece of My Colors cardstock. All of the flowers were done with My Colors that I matched to the colors in the New Day collection. So I'm going to set that off to the side. So here is our album, or folio. It is a gatefold. You, of course, could do this as a standalone with just a normal belly band on it. With some kind of magnetic closure, however you wanted to do this. I did it this way because I thought this would be a nice addition to, rather than it being just a normal album or folio with that front piece, I thought gatefold would be kind of fun. So when you open it up, this does measure 8 by 8. This is also 8 by 8. It has a 1 1/4 inch spine on the folio itself. So on both sides, left and right side mirror each other. I've got pockets with tags that I did with just white artisan cardstock, and then matted them with solids from the collection. I've used some of the ephemera and the stickers, and then the chipboards here. This flips up, so you've got a couple of places for pictures there. These have magnets and fold down and then open up, and then you've got waterfalls on both sides, 4 by 4. Actually, just slightly under 4 by 4, like 3 7/8 by 4. And, of course, lots of space for pictures here and here. These both fold back in and are magnetized. This folds open, and we've got an acetate pocket over here. The acetate does run all the way to the top of the pocket, so anything that you do put in there you can see. This is also held closed with a magnet. Here we've got just a big photo spot, and then one of the tags from the ephemera pack with some kind of gradiated rainbow twine that I have had in my stash forever and had knocked it off of something the other day, and I was like, oh, I need to use it with this. So I actually used something out of my stash. It's a miracle. On this side, we've got a 4 by 6 waterfall. Very simple. Another photo spot in here. And it's sitting on what is kind of a fake belly band. So the belly band does not go all the way across. I just used it to make a tuck spot to tuck in some of these adorable cut aparts to the sides of the waterfall. And that was just because, where this was a heavier waterfall and a heavier page, I didn't want it to be an actual belly band because then it would have kind of pulled this page out of shape. Okay, so here we've got a pocket flap, and I've got a couple more tags that I put together with the with white artisan and some of the solids from the collection. More of the stickers here. On the back side, we've got places for pictures here and some stickers in the ephemera. And then here we have another acetate pocket. This is actually the back side of the pocket. You're going to open it here, and it's got an 1/8 of an inch gusset, so you'll be able to slide things down in there and see them from the other side. And then on the very back, we've got an acetate belly band, and I did a couple of inserts. These are actually both the same, other than the little ephemera pieces and stickers on the front, that they just open up and they will hold 5x7 pictures. And I did 2 of those, acetate belly band, and then in the back we have another big pocket with a big insert that I actually ended up not doing any photo mats on. I just left it as is. And this is a Cartabella Dots paper that is available at Country Craft Creations, and it goes really, really nicely with this paper collection. So that is the project. Tutorial starts next. As always, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you would like to be notified when I have new projects uploaded. As always, if you, oops, somehow here, I promise it does actually go back on. I keep catching on my little tab there. As always, if you make this project, please share it on Scrapbookers at Country Craft Creations. You can also share it on my page, Scrapping Under the Influence, and on my group, I Scrapped Under the Influence, a craft group for all crafters, which the name is going to change before too much longer here as soon as I figure out what I'm changing it to. You can also find me on Instagram as well, under Scrapping Under the Influence, and you can always tag me there when you make any of my projects. As always, thank you for watching. Here comes your tutorial. Okay, so for the base, you're going to start with an 8x8 piece of chipboard and a 10x10 piece of cardstock. You're going to use our 1-inch spacers. And I'm going to get the backing off of the tape on my chipboard. And we're just going to use the spacers and lay this down. So we are going to wrap our chipboard. So I'm just going to fold the cardstock around the chipboard. This is the baby blue artisan cardstock. Okay. So next we're going to cut out the corners. We're just wrapping this like you would wrap album covers. Alright, and I am going to miter. I apologize, the cricket's running over here in the background. I'm trying to get some stuff cut out that I need for cards. And I've spent half the morning fighting with it for the stuff that I needed it to write, so not been a good morning. Okay. Alright. So then I am going to use a combination of glue and score tape to wrap this like you typically see me do. So I'm going to go around my edges with the score tape. Alright, so let me find the glue. I'm going to go ahead and pull the backing off of my tape on all 4 sides. will go along the edge of the chipboard with my glue. Come in with my bone folder, push up against the chipboard, and then over and down. Alright, so that piece is ready to go. We're going to set that aside for right now. For the front, this is going to be a gatefold, so I've got two pieces that are 4x8. Both of them have tape completely covering the backs. I'm going to grab my 1-inch spacers and my little picker thing here. And I'm going to pull the backing off of that. And then I'm going to use my spacers to line that up and drop it down. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other one. Okay. And then I'm going to swap out my 1-inch for 1.5 for our spine pieces. Because this is gatefold, you will need 2 spine pieces that are 8 by 1.25. We're going to wrap this with cardstock that is 10 by 4.25. So again, I have tape all over the back. And I am going to pull up right here. And drop that down. Grab my other piece. Oops. And one more time. Oh, that just went totally crooked. Oh my gosh. You know what? It'll be fine, because actually, it's probably a good thing. So with the Easy Wrap or the Lay Flat, depending on who's doing it, that Tammy at Country Craft Creations came up with, even though that's crooked, it's not going to matter, because we're going to fold it this way, we're going to fold it this way, and we're going to fold it around. Okay, so as long as, where'd my scissors go? Okay, so we're going to cut out our corners. As long as we're paying attention to that straight line that was made by folding it on the ends, it's not going to matter if there's a little bit more here and a little bit more here, because when this goes actually down on your book, it's going to be straight. Okay. Which is the beautiful thing about this album method, is it's really difficult to screw up. So I'm going to fold this in, and I'm going to miter. And I'm going to miter, which apparently I got carried away on that side. I'm going to miter again. And then I'm going to fold those in. And I'm going to miter here. And I'm going to miter here. That one again, I got really carried away when I cut that. Oh my god. Okay. So for our spine pieces, we're just going to get glue in on this end tab only. And then over and down. And I got really carried away there again. So I'm going to grab so when we go to actually put this together, like I said, it's not going to matter that that's crooked because it's going to go together up against that spine like so. Slide that up a little bit. Sorry, I didn't realize it was low there. So it's not going to matter. So yeah, you're going to have, you know, a little extra paper on one end, but this is all going to get covered up anyways, so it's going to be fine. If you put that down crooked on the method where you're stringing all the papers together, you're not going to be able to fix that short of pulling it apart or starting over. So just a really cool thing there. Okay, so our normal one was not crooked chipboard. Honestly, the only way you can screw this method up is if your chipboard is uneven. And even then, you can kind of hide it, so it's not, you know, much more forgiving, much better for beginners or, you know, those of us who are measuring challenged like me. Yet somehow I'm still making these. Go figure, right? Okay, so I'm just mitering again, and again, and again. We're going to get our ends glued down on this. So I'm just pushing up against the side of the chipboard with the bone folder, and then over and burnishing it down. And apparently still getting really carried away with the glue, but that's okay. We can wipe it off. Not the end of the world. Okay, so those are ready to go. For our two front pieces, you're wrapping these exactly like you would wrap this. It's no different, so you're just folding around. Like so. I'm going to go ahead and do the other one while I'm at it. And again, this is another case where if you put that chipboard on there and it's not exactly straight on the cardstock, the way this goes together, it's not going to make any difference, which is awesome. Okay, so we're going to cut the corners out again. I'm going to do it on both. Oh, I didn't miter that one. That's okay, we'll miter it. Okay, so we're going to miter this just like we mitered our other piece. So just coming in, laying the scissors against the side of the chipboard and angling in. Okay, so I am going to grab my 1/4" score tape because it makes it that much easier to wrap this part. I don't usually mess with this on the little hinge or the spine pieces just because it's such a tiny piece that I have to burnish down. This is a bigger deal and is part of what causes my hands to cramp up. Heck, rolling all those dang flowers was not the best idea because I am really feeling it today. But that's okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now is get the backing off of my tape. Let's see, they're kind of lifted up on me because I didn't burnish that corner down, but that's okay. All right, so now we're going to go in, glue along the edge of the chipboard, and then in that middle section, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to push up against the edge with our bone folder, and then over and down. And because I have the tape and the glue, I don't have to sit here for, you know, a while burnishing it over and over and over again until it dries and really starts to stick. This is like instant. I could quit being carried away with the glue, which I think I overfilled my glue bottle actually. And I think I need to replace the tip on this one because it's getting kind of wonky, but that's okay. All right, so again, okay. And then we're going to do it again. Ooh. See? Burnish down your score tape, people. I get in a hurry and I forget, and then that happens where it pulls up when I pull the backing off. Okay. Yeah, I have definitely gotten this overfilled, I think. So I have one of the big refill bottles that was just about gone, and I was trying to top this off, and I think I got really carried away or something. Weird. Okay, so again, and down, and one more time, and down. Oh my God, seriously, like, where is it coming from? Ugh, anyway, okay, so those are ready. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take both of my spine pieces, put them pretty side up, and I'm going to take my bone folder, and I'm going to just burnish down along the edge there. Let me fix my light. My light's like kind of, there we go, that's better. Okay, so I'm just going to burnish along that edge so you see how that's now very defined. That's what you want to do on both of these. Okay, so now I am going to come in here with my tape again, and this is because that way when I go to put this together, if any of it tries to shift as I'm assembling, the tape is going to help keep that from shifting. Okay. All right. So let's attach our spines to our back piece of our cover. So I am going to grab my scoreboard. I'm going to set this down in here. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to set this down in here. I'm going to get get the backing off of one end, I am going to hit this with some glue. And then I'm going to start, so I'm pushing my chipboard all the way up against the side here. Just kind of holding on to it with my fingers so that I don't get it out of whack here. And I'm just going to pull until I feel that kind of fall off the side. And apparently I'm pushing too hard because it shouldn't pop back over like that, but that's okay. All right. And I can turn this over and burnish this down. Okay. Do the same thing on the opposite side. Pull that up. And you don't want to get the glue too close to that spine so that it doesn't end up running over. And again, over and down. And then I'm going to come in and burnish from this side. All right. So now we're going to start on the other end. And again, get my backing off. Seriously, I don't know what I've done to this that it's like running like that. I'm going to have to take a break here in a minute and figure out what the problem is. Okay, so we're just going to do the same thing again. Okay, there we go. And then our other side. I think my hinge on this one is actually just a tiny bit short, but actually I think both of my hinges are a tiny bit short. I wonder how I manage that. Who knows? You know what? It's fine though. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. All right. So there is our gatefold album. I am going to go ahead and get my pieces prepped. They're going to go across on the inside here. Let's see what they're going to be. 7 7/8 by, let's go 5 inches. So let me grab those. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have our two pieces that are going to cover up and reinforce our spines. Okay, so what you want to do is make sure you have tape over the entire back of this. So this is 5 by 7 7/8. And the reason you want to use tape as opposed to glue, if you try to do this reinforcement piece with tape, or I'm sorry, with glue, it will bubble. You will not get this to lay completely flat and flush. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of turn it the wrong way, kind of figure out about where it needs to go. And put that down. Do the same thing on the other end. Okay, again, figuring out about where I want it to go. Make sure you don't have glue, no, not glue, tape over the edge of that there because it will attract dust. And you don't want that. Okay, so now you're going to fold this over, and I am going to squeeze this to get that spine out where it needs to be. Because sometimes it will try to, you can see I didn't get this burnished down enough in here. So I'm going to try again. And I'm going to push down with my bone folder here. And then I'm going to squeeze that to get that nice and flat. Oops. It still is trying to pop up on me. Okay. I think we're good. This side I am definitely going to burnish down a little bit more. And then fold, and fold, and then I'm going to bring it over, and I'm going to do the same thing again. So this side worked fine. My other side I was a little bit wonky, but that's okay. All right, so this should sit where it's supposed to. Everything's good. Yep, we're all good there. So I'm going to get our interior elements together, and I'll be right back. All right, so let's do the inside of our gatefold pieces. So we're going to start with two pieces that are 8 inches by 4 5/8. With the 4 5/8 at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score it 1/2 inch and then 5/8 of an inch. So you have an 1/8 of an inch gusset. Okay, so 1/2 inch and then 5/8. Okay, I'm going to miter both of those. And set those aside. Next up, we're going to do a waterfall. So I have 10 pieces that are 4 1/2 by 4, and I did cut them just a hair under 4 just to make sure that they're going to fit right without being too big. So with the 4 1/2 at the top, we're going to score it 1/2 inch on all of these. All right, so I'm going to set those aside. And then we're going to have stacked pockets that are actually going to sit on top of the flaps. So you need 2 pieces that are 5 by 6. With the 5 inch at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score it 1/2 inch, turn it, and then 1/2 inch again. And then 2 pieces that are 4 by 5, and we're going to score that starting with the 5 at the top, 1/2 inch, turn, 1/2 inch, turn, and 1/2 inch. All right, so on our pockets, we are going to miter. We're going to cut through where the score lines cross on the bottom. And then I'm going to miter the top of the pocket. On the longer one, we're actually going to miter it on both ends. Okay. We're going to start with our flaps. So what I'm going to do is take one of my long pockets. I'm going to fold and burnish my score lines. That is going to go on here like so. And this should fit from this edge to the score line. Anytime I'm cutting something that's going to run the width of something or the entire length of something, I always cut it just shy of whatever that actual measurement is. Okay? So I'm going to turn these so that my tab that's going to attach to the book is facing towards the outside of my mat. Well, there we go. Okay. Oh yeah, that tip's much better. I haven't had to stick something in it to unclog it 1,000 times. Okay, so I'm going to get glue on our tabs on the sides, and then we're going to do just a very small line across the bottom. Okay. I'm going to start in this outside bottom corner, line up all down that side, and then I should be lined up perfectly going across the other way. And I'm still having glue issues, apparently. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and burnish this down. Okay, same thing on our other pocket. And again, I'm going to this bottom outside corner, lining up, and then putting my other side down. Okay. Okay, next we're going to take our other pocket. We're going to fold and burnish. And then that's going to go right here on the bottom. And again, I'm going to start on that bottom outside corner, get it lined up, and then burnish this down. Okay, so there's one flap. The other one. And repeat again. Okay, so I'm going to set those to the side for right now. So the waterfall, you're going to have 5 on each side. So I'm going to take my first stack and I am going to fold and burnish. And I actually like to put mine in with the project upside down so that I'm sure I'm getting them lined up right. So again, we're going to go to the outside edge. Actually, no, we're not yet. We got to put this in first. I apologize. Okay, so our flaps have 1/8 of an inch gusset. So I'm going to fold on the innermost score line first, and then I'm going to push it back down, and then I'm going to fold the outer one. Work it just a little bit, and then oops, let's take the lid back off the glue. That would be helpful. I'm going to go ahead and put this down. Okay, so this is going to go to the outside edge. And if you're not sure, you can push that gusset down flat so that you can line everything up. And there you go. Here's our first one. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with the second. I'm going to fold that first score line down, fold it back, and then I'm going to get that second one. And then pull it back towards you, and you should have that cute little boxy score line. Okay. So again, go all the way to the outside edge. If it's more helpful to push that score line or that little gusset flat to line this up, by all means, do so, because you can always push it back on itself and it will pop right back into place. Okay, so now we're going to do our waterfall. All right, so as I was saying, waterfalls, I like to do them upside down. And again, because this is running the width of the cover, I cut this just under 4 inches. To make sure these were all consistent, I cut it to 4 inches and then cut the 4.5, which I realize does waste a little bit of paper on the end because you can't get 3 of them out of one strip. But that's going to ensure that your waterfall pages are all the same width. Apparently that score line was just ever so slightly crooked, so that's the other thing we're looking at as we put this down, is making sure everything's straight. Okay. Oops. And our last one. I know what piece I didn't cut. That's okay, we'll get it in just a minute. So I'm going to fold this back down and burnish. Okay, and then this will fold right down over the top. And there we go. Okay, so other side. And again, I'm just going to fold and burnish my waterfall pieces very quickly. So again, we're going to come in here, all the way to the top. And do our next waterfall. And honestly, if your waterfall's a tiny bit off, it's fine. It's a handmade project. There is no way these are ever going to be exactly perfect. If it were perfect, you'd be buying it in a store. So, don't be hard on yourself if something's not quite right. You know, most stuff like that, nobody else is going to notice. You're the only one who's going to notice that. And unless you're like me and you're prone to pointing those things out to people, which unfortunately I am that idiot, nobody's going to know. And it's fine. Okay. So, again, we're going to burn it up. See, and that's why we're checking this after we put it down and adjusting where we need to. And then we're going to fold the whole thing back over and burnish it closed. All right. So the next little piece that we need, I need to cut really quickly. So give me 1 second. Okay, so we're going to do a closure. So I've got these are 2 inches by 6 inches, which I can tell by looking at it is going to be longer than what I actually need. I always like to start with these a little bit longer, just because then you can kind of adjust. If you want it longer, you can leave it. If you want it shorter, you can leave it. I want it to come about halfway up that pocket. So I'm going to say I need about 3.5 inches in reality. Actually 3 5/8 because we still need to put that gusset in there. So I'm going to cut both of these to 3 5/8 by 2. Okay. Grab my scoreboard and we're going to score it 1/2 inch and 5/8 on both of these. Okay. And we are going to, why are these totally different sizes? Oh my God, what did I do? I literally cut these from the same piece of paper. How did I do that? Oh my God. Okay, let's fix that. Of course, I tried to cut something smaller in the big dolly trimmer, which is not easy to do. In fact, it's pretty much impossible to cut it and get it right. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Just it started going wonky as I cut down the length. Easily fixable. Okay. So, whoops. We're going to go ahead and miter from the second score line. And then we are going to fold and burnish. And fold and burnish. So you've got your little gusset again, just like on the flap itself. Okay. And these are going to go down. Whoops. We're just going to center this here. I'm actually going to close this and hook it on the bottom and center it up. That way I know I don't get it too high, if that makes sense. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Go on my tab. I'm going to hook it over the bottom of just the flap. Slide it till it's centered up. And then push it down. Okay. Now, all you need to do is add a magnet on here. I have to dig them out because I do not have any out at the moment. I think my magnets are all gone and I need to open new packages, which is fine. And then this should all just close up. And I think this one's like hanging over ever so slightly. This side's fine. This side, my waterfall is kind of crooked and too far over, so I will be fixing that. But this should close up, which I mean it'll close, it's just not exactly right on this one side. But that's okay. We're going to leave it as is. Well, no, I'll fix it. not going to worry about it. Okay, let me get together our center elements and I'll be right back. Okay, so let's work on our center section. So first up, we're going to do a pocket. The flap for this pocket is going to be 7 7/8 by 4. The 4-inch at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score it 1/2 inch. Okay, you can go ahead and corner round this if you want to, and then miter on top. Okay, the next piece is going to be 7 inches by 8 7/8. Okay, we're going to start with the 8 7/8 at the top of the scoreboard. Score it 1/2 inch, turn, 1/2 inch, turn, and 1/2 inch. Okay, now I'm going to take my ruler and the bumpy side up, so the side we're going to fold the tabs toward, I'm going to take my little centering ruler here, and I am going to find, actually no, not on this one, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of another piece. Okay, so the Tim Holtz ruler is 1.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to line this up to the outside edge and I'm going to draw a line. Okay, you want this line in 1 inch in from your score line. And because this ruler is 1.5 inches wide, I can literally just line this up with the edge and draw my line. Super easy. Okay. Then I am going to cut that section out. Okay. That corner, maybe go, and that one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and miter through the bottom corners where the score lines intersect. I'm going to miter at the top. And then I'm going to take a piece of acetate that is 6 3/8 by 7 3/4. Okay. I'm going to turn this so the opening is facing me. You want score tape around the edge of, on 3 sides of your acetate. 2 short sides, 1 long side. I'm going to pull the backing back about 1 inch from the top. Okay. I am going to line this up so that the top of the acetate, oh, before I do that, just as another element here, I'm actually going to round the top of that inside part of this pocket. Okay. And then I am going to just line this up so that the acetate is at the very top of the pocket. And then I can just pull that out. Get my end here and do the same thing again. Okay. All right. So now we can go ahead and fold and burnish. and burnish on my top flap. And then I'm going to grab my scoreboard again. And we are going to do the first large flap. So I'd actually done this once and had the pocket completely screwed up. So we're going to do this again and pretend I hadn't already scored and folded this. So this is going to be 8 inches by 9.5. With the 9.5 at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 1 inch. Okay. You're going to go ahead and miter and then fold and burnish. And then you're going to want to look at this and go, okay, so this is going to attach over here. Because this pocket is going to go on the inside of this flap. Okay. So make sure you've got it turned right. So right now my book is right side up. This will go here. You would open it this way. So this is the way you need to orient this so that your hinge is going to be on your right hand side. Okay. So I'm going to put glue on the bottom. I'm going to put this all the way at the bottom. And you're going to have maybe a 32nd of an inch on each side of this, which was where I screwed it up last time. Okay, and I will get the sides. And then if you wanted to, you could do a ribbon closure, in which case you would attach your ribbon down here and up here first. I'm actually going to do some little magnets on the sides here, but I don't have those ready to go yet. So instead, I'm just going to put my flap on here. Flap is going to go all the way to the top. Make sure it's even side to side over the pocket. And there's our pocket. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and glue this in. And so what I'm going to do is lay that out flat. Get the glue on my little 1/2 inch tab here. That way I'm looking in the right place when I go to put this down. So it's going to be centered top to bottom. It should be almost exact top to bottom. Even cutting it just a tiny, tiny bit under. And then I'm just going to hold this up and make sure that I'm lining this up where it's not going to interfere with the book closing. Okay. Okay. We are good on both sides. So that piece is done. Our next flap is going to be on the opposite side. And this one is 9 1/4 by 8. With the 9 1/4 at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and then at 1 1/4 of an inch. Okay. Again, you're going to miter. And then fold and burnish, and fold and burnish. Okay, so this one is going to go on this side. Okay, on the inside here, what we're going to do, let me just make sure this is sized right. Okay, so I have a piece that is 8 3/4 by 6 1/8. So with the 8 3/4 at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch, turn, and 1/2 inch. So this is kind of going to be a big belly band, except it's not going to pass all the way through underneath. Okay. So I'm going to miter. And fold and burnish. And this is going to go down on the inside of this flap. However, you can see it's about a quarter of an inch shorter than the height of this page. So you can make the decision if you want to mat underneath this and then put it down, or if you're fine with it having just that little strip along the top and the bottom there. It's up to you. I think I will end up matting underneath this, so I'm not going to actually adhere this one down yet. But we're going to build a waterfall on top of this, okay? So I have 4 pieces that are 4 5/8 by 6 1/8. You will score them at 1/2 inch. You will not miter these because it is a waterfall. So I am going to go ahead and fold and burnish. Okay, and this is going to be built on top of this piece. So, and again, this is another one of these moments where you kind of need to decide how you want to do this. Okay, because let me grab some clips. When my waterfall doesn't take up like the entire page, which most of the time they don't, I will kind of, get it folded and then kind of stack it up about how it's actually going to end up going down on the page. Okay. And then clip it. So what I need to decide now is, am I going to put this at the top and then just have it end, or am I just going to center this on this little fake belly band that we're going to do, and mat underneath up here and then down here. Okay, I think I do want to center that kind of funny. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and just clip this all together and set it aside. This piece, however, we do need to go ahead and put down so that we can put we have a very large pocket that's going back here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get glue on my tab. And again, we're going to do like we did a minute ago. We're going to stand this up, make sure we're in here where it's not too far over so that it will stand up the way it needs to. And then we need to fold this over to make sure this piece isn't too long. And you're not really going to know until you actually put it in. And it is just a tiny bit too long. So I am going to take this run it off the side of the book into my scoreboard. And I am going to take about 1/8 of an inch off. Okay? Actually, that is 1/8 of an inch. Try it again. Make sure everything folds up. And now it folds up just fine. So you can see from the top. Honestly, we could probably go a tiny bit more. I think I'm going to, just to make sure that this closes without it running up against things where it's going to be a problem. Okay, so there's that. Much better. Okay. So this will go in here once we get that, what do you want to call it? Once we get this matted. Know what I'm trying to say. Okay, so next piece that's going to go in is going to be a pocket that's going to sit pretty much over that entire back section. Okay, so this starts out at 8 7/8 by 8 3/8. Okay, scored 1/2 inch on 3 sides, and then I used the envelope punch board to notch this because we're going to have a big insert that's going to go in this. Okay, so I'm going to just lay this in here. Make sure it's not too tight, and I can tell you right now it is, so we're going to have to fix it. That's okay, it can be done. Other than now, my little thing here is not going to be centered, but that's okay. We will make it work. All right, so I'm going to put this in my scoreboard. I'd scored it at 1/2 inch originally. I'm going to go over to 5/8, and I'm going to score again. Okay, I'm going to redo this miter, and I'm going to clean up this one so it's really where it needs to be. So what's going to end up happening is you're going to have this one tab that's longer. It's absolutely fine. This is easier than trying to recut the whole thing. And where this little notch is now going to be off center, as you can see, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to widen it out. So with the tabs folded in, I'm going to line this up at 3 inches and punch. I'm going to turn it over, line it up at 3 inches again, and punch. And then I'm just going to take my ruler and my craft knife, wherever I've lost it. And I'm just going to line this up. And just get those little pieces off in the middle. And there you go, all fixed. Okay, so let's test fit it again. And this time we are pretty much perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue on the bottom tab. And center this up. Burnish it down. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and glue down our sides. And really at this point, if you wanted to shorten this up where you would have a smaller insert, you absolutely could. You would just put glue, you know, however deep you actually wanted this to go. I'm fine with it being like the full width, so I'm going to leave it as is. Okay. All right, partway there. Let me pull the rest of my stuff for the rest of the inside here. I'm going to go ahead and mat this so that we can put our little belly band waterfall thingy on. I'll be right back. Okay, our last couple of pages. So, first off, we need a piece of cardstock that is, I should have written these down. I was like doing this on the fly. 6.5 by 5. We're going to score this at 1/2 inch, turn, 1/2 inch, turn, and 1/2 inch again. And then you need another piece that is going to be 6.25 by 7. This one with the 6.25 at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score this at 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch. go ahead and miter my corners. And again. Slide this to the side for just a minute. I'm going to fold and burnish all of our score lines. Okay. Oops. All right. So this is going to go in this way. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my pocket isn't too big before I start gluing, because I'm on a roll with this today. Okay. I'm going to burnish that bottom down. And get that down. Okay. This one is going to go on this side. And we are just going to center this, so it's going to be just slightly below where our notch is. I'm going to put this close to the edge of the, actually it can go pretty much to the edge of the pocket. And just center it up. Okay, there's that one. I'll go ahead and put that waterfall on in just a minute as well. Okay, next we have a piece that is 6 3/4 by 9 1/2. With the 9 1/2 at the top of the scoreboard, you're going to score this at 1/2 inch, 5/8 of an inch, 6 1/2, and 6 5/8. Okay. The next piece is going to be 8 by 6 1/2, and I actually went just a hair under 6 1/2 on this. So with the 8 inch at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and 5/8. Turn, 1/2 inch, 5/8. Turn, 1/2 inch, and 5/8. Now, this one, we're going to put a window in this. However, I'm not sure if I would like the window on the front or on the back, because this is going to go in, here's our tab, it's going to go in on this side. Okay, this is going to be our flap. We're making kind of another envelope, only it's, you know, on the flap there. This, of course, is going to be our actual pocket itself. So it's up to you if you want to cut your window for your frame on this side, so that when this is in the book, it's facing down and you open it up and there's your pocket, or if you want to put it on this side so you see it, but the opening's on the back side. I'm going to put it on this side. So I am going to grab a pencil and my ruler, and I am going to go in 1/2 inch from the edge. I'm going to turn this over, so I'm doing this on the same side that we're actually going to end up folding on. And I'm going to do, if there's lead, draw a line. Again, 1/2 inch from the score line. I'm going to do the other score line because this is the more difficult of the lines. and then 1/2 inch again. Okay, I'm going to grab my trimmer and go ahead and cut out my little window here. It's about the only reason I keep this Fiskars trimmer around is to cut when I need to trim either small pieces of chipboard or when I need to do something like this where I need to line it up exactly, because I'm very much dependent on that little wire that's in there. All right, so let's get that out. You can go ahead and erase the rest of your line if you want to, even though you're not going to see it. I'm going to go ahead and erase it just in case. All right. And then I've got a piece of acetate. This is actually my leftover from when I cut our other acetate for the window on the first page. So I'm going to just take this, and I'm going to do exactly like I did before. I'm going to go around the outside edge with score tape. This time I'm using 1/4 inch because we've got a little bit less of, you know, extra space to work with, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say here. Okay. Oops. And then I am going to peel up acetate on one side. Or I'm sorry, not acetate, the score tape backing on one side. I'm going to line this up, put that down. I can take the tissue paper off now so you can see what I'm doing. And then just get that backing off of the other pieces. Okay, so that's down. Now we can go ahead and fold and burnish our score lines. Okay, which actually I want that to go the other direction. Okay, and then this one's going to come the opposite way. All right. Okay, so we've got that piece. Now we need to work on this piece. You're going to miter at the top of the corners, or the top of the pocket, that is. And then down here on the bottom, we're actually going to do it. Let me think about this for a second, since I just screwed the other one up. Okay, I'm going to cut up to the second score line. Up to the second score line and then across like that, and then miter that. And then actually I'm going to cut that out like so. Okay, so cut up, and then miter that just from the outside score line. And from the outside score line. Okay, that'll work. Yeah, because I cut all the way across up way too high and ended up with that, where you had a hole. Anyway, we fixed it. We're good. Okay, so we are going to fold and burnish all of our score lines. We're going to start with the inner of the two and then fold it back out to get that second one, to get that little 1/8 of an inch. Just grab the wrong one. Okay, and the bottom, same thing. All right, so we're going to come up like so. I'm going to lay it on here to make sure that it fits, that this will close. We're all good. Actually going to go around this with score tape. And I'm going to use 3/8 inch because this is going up against that acetate and you want it to hold. You could glue it, but it's going to take a while for that to dry. And it can be a little tricky to get it where you want it and get it to stay there while you wait for the glue on the acetate to dry. So. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get the backing off of the score tape on the bottom here. And then lift it up just on those corners. It's really because I ran the score tape over those corners. We really didn't need to glue them, but normally you wouldn't be doing this on top of acetate where you would want to kind of tack those down to make sure they stay put. Okay, so we are going to the bottom here. And then I can just pull this up the side and stick it down. And the same thing on the other side as soon as I find my end. And we're good there. Round my corners. And there is our pocket. So, and I did just put that on the absolute wrong side. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. Oh well, it's fine. I did actually, but you know what? It's fine because I'm going to put it down like this. This one actually will lay on top. This one will go underneath, which that's going to bug me because I didn't want it the other way. Okay, so I got this assembled with the acetate on the wrong side, which is fine. You could do it this way. You just would need to adjust that gusset so that it would fold around, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm actually going to come in here, wherever my tool went, and I'm going to score this again. I'm actually going to slide it over just enough that this will actually wrap up and around the bottom of my little envelope here. And it may take a couple of tries Just kind of eyeballing where it really needs to be. There we go. Aha, got it. All right, so we'll go ahead and put this down. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the other side. We're just going to center this up. Run it almost to the edge of the pocket and glue it down. Okay, easy peasy, especially when you don't screw it up like I did. Anyway, of course now it doesn't want to glue. Okay, let's try this again because I did not get enough glue because I didn't want it going everywhere. And then it doesn't stick because this is, you know, this is how I do things around here late on Sunday, which if you've watched my tutorials, you probably already know this. Okay. And of course, now I have glue going everywhere. But this time it will stick down where I want it, so we're good. All right. Let's fold that in. Let's go ahead and put our little fake belly band on here. So I did go ahead and glue a strip here. I matted this, and I'm going to pull these off because we'll put those on like normal in just a minute. Okay, so this is going to go on here. But what I'm going to do, and if you don't want to do it this way, you don't have to, obviously. I'm going to do my glue there, and then I'm going to do some just in the middle, because I don't want to try to get an insert or something that's going to fit all the way across through here that's going to be hard to get in and out. I just want like little kind of pockets, but not totally pockets, if that makes sense. Okay, so that goes there, and then we're just going to build our waterfall. Okay, and the waterfall is the same width as our little fake belly band. So this will be an easy one to line up. And if you're one who has a hard time getting them lined up and straight and everything, build them on top of something, like a pocket or something that is the same width as the waterfall. Unless you're me, where it's just going to go completely sideways again tonight, because of course it is. How do we want to... Okay, you know what? I'm going to stick a piece of chipboard in here to kind of firm this up while I work on it. And I'm going to grab my extra piece in here, and there we go. That'll work. So if you're doing something like this where you've got an element in there that you then have to attach something to or mat and it's not exactly cooperating, grab a spare piece of chipboard and just stick it underneath there, because that's going to firm everything up enough for you to be able to put good pressure to glue something down, and everything will be good. But as I was saying, if you're one that has a hard time getting waterfalls lined up correctly, build them on top of something. You want a 4-inch wide waterfall? Make a 4-inch wide pocket or belly band, or even if you don't want anything, you know, you don't want it on top of something like that, you can still take a strip of paper that is the width of your belly band and build it on there and then glue the whole thing down. And that way you can make sure it's done right. Well, not necessarily right. I don't want to say right. You can make sure it's even before you put it in the book and have to pull it out to fix it. I am just having a horrible time with this tonight. I was thinking I was going to nap, but I might not be doing anything except saying I'm done and going to bed. Even though it's like 7:30. But that's okay. All right. There's our last one. And where's my phone folder? And I forgot to round the corners on these, but I can come back in and do that. That's not a big deal. Okay. And again, and there we go. Pull my extra chipboard out. And this all closes up like so. We have one more little thing. We are actually going to put a real belly band in here. And I have not, other than the width, which is 2.5, I want to measure exactly what this is going to be in between here before I actually cut it to glue in. Okay. Just making sure that this is lined up right. So mine, and you will want to measure yours, of course, we are going to go with 7 5/8 is the finished size. So that'll be 8 5/8 overall. So let me go ahead and trim that down. Grab the scoreboard, simple 1/2-inch score on each end. Miter. And then fold and burnish. And then we will go ahead and put this down. So we are going to go across with this. You could go up and down if you wanted to. I am going to just go across the middle here. And there you go. Now, all that's left is to mat this and then do our belly band on our flowers. So I am going to grab the stuff for that and we'll talk about that. Okay, so the last thing we have left are a couple of inserts. So we did this big pocket on the back. What I'm going to do is put my ruler in here until it's all the way at the bottom. And then I'm going to see where that ends up. So that ends up being about 7 3/4. So I'm cutting my piece to go inside to 8 inches because we're going to use the tab punch on this to make a little tab in the middle of this. For the width, I did, what did I do? 7.5. That way it's going to slide in and out without it being too tight. So what we are going to do, because this is 7 3/4, okay, let me just make sure I have it on the right side. So that would be, we're going to put this about like so. Okay, then I'm going to bring it on to this side. I'm just going to cut off the top piece here. Okay, a couple little pieces kind of sticking up. Grab those off. All right. You could add photo mats to this, which I probably will end up doing here in a minute, but then this is going to just slide right down in here like so. All right, so I did make a couple of tags for those pockets, a couple for the ones in the front as well. The last thing we need is the insert for a belly band on the back. So I ended up switching that out from the cardstock one to acetate just because I thought it would look nicer. It's up to you. So for this insert, you're going to need one piece 5x7 and then one piece 7x10.5. We are going to score this at 1/2 inch. And then, actually, I think I went 10 5/8, actually. I think. Hold on, let me double check. Yes, 10 5/8. So then I'm going to go over here to 5, and I think that's how I was doing this. Hold on. I had this worked out in my head a minute ago. Yes, 5 5/8. Okay. We'll go ahead and miter. And you, of course, can make this whatever size you want, as long as it fits under there. It'll be just fine. So I'm going to fold that. I'm going to fold this. And then this one is going to attach on here. And actually, I think I'm going to wrap it around this way since it's going to get patterned, covered with pattern paper. It's not really going to make a difference. And that way for sure too, I know that it's lined up exactly where I want it. All right. So then that I will mat, and it's just going to slide in here and sit under there. I actually might do a second one because I've got space, but that's it. There is, oops, this actually goes the other way, and again, the other way, and like so. Okay, so while the glue gun is heating back up again, I'm going to show you how I did the flowers. So these are rolled flowers. I cut these with the Cricut. I will link the file itself because it is one that's in Design Space in Cricut Access. So if you have Cricut Access, this is a free file. It's actually meant for felt flowers, which I've done rolled felt flowers, and those are actually really fun to do. But it worked fine doing this way. And there's lots of places out there that have SVG files to do rolled flowers, to cut them and then make them, and so on and so forth. Initially, I was going to use the small Wild Rose die from Heartfelt Creations, available at Country Craft Creations. And I ended up, although I loved how these came out, they were beautiful, one flower took like way too long. So instead I went the other route because I ended up making, oh my gosh, what's 8 times 14? That's a lot of dang flowers. That's all I know. 148? No, 128. Yeah, 128 flowers. Didn't use all of them, used most of them, but I believe there's 81 total in that box. Okay, so this is heating up. So all you do is you're going to start at the small end. And and I'm sure somebody's going to comment that I'm doing this wrong. I don't care. This is how I did it because I don't have the patience to make paper flowers that look real or that look like really professional. So this is how I did this. I just started, I'm going to leave that down there because I think you guys can see okay, and just kind of folded the petals in half as I rolled them. And of the papers I used, this one with the dots, this is one of the My Colors, This was probably the hardest one to roll, and of course this was the one I had extra of because they didn't cut quite right the first time around. So I had a few of these that I didn't actually assemble. And all I'm doing is just manhandling the ever-loving crap out of this thing. And I am squeezing it as I roll it up and just kind of pinching this and rolling and pinching and rolling all at the same time. Okay. And rolling and rolling. Oh. And again, it's paper. It's, you know, it's not going to look real wonderful once I'm finished rolling this up, but there's a trick to it. Okay. So at this point, it's all nice and tightly rolled, but you'll see we've got this circle piece. So this piece right here that's on the bottom. Okay. So once I got to that point, I fold that up, and then I just kind of put this down so that the bottom piece that you've rolled is sitting on top of that circle, and just kind of let it go. And it will kind of spread out on its own without you really having to do a whole lot to it. Okay? All I did at this point, and I went through and I rolled these all like this and just set them on my table like this till I had all of them rolled, and then I went through it once and glued all of them. Okay? So all I did, just put a little pile of glue on here, and then push this back over and kind of fluff it out as I'm pushing it down and pushing that center in so that the hot glue grabs all the way through on this edge of all of those pieces. Okay? Then, after I had done that and I had glued them all in their little rainbow configuration, I went through with the Prima memory hardware pearls, because there's a bunch of new colors and they're fabulous, and just found the ones that kind of contrasted nicely with whichever color flower I was doing. So like with these, there's a slightly lighter purplish one in here that I used on the purple ones. I used the green, I used the kind of oyster colored, I used the blue. Did I use the pink ones on here? I think I did use some of the pink ones out of here. I used the lighter, okay, so the lighter gold out of here, and then the pink and the green and the blue out of here. Okay. Super easy, because once you get to that point, it just depends on which size pearl you want to put in there. You know, you could even do the really huge ones. There's like a medium size in here. I did the smallest ones because there are 3 sizes in here. So I just did the smallest one. If my center was too tight right there to get the pearl in, I just kind of went in with my little Cricut tool that I use to do my scoring and just dropped another bead of hot glue down in there and then just pushed that down into the center. And that's how I did my flowers. I'm going to get my scoreboard back out. And I am going to grab a 12 by 12 piece of acetate. Okay. So we are going to use the whole sheet, and what we're going to do is we're going to score this at 1 inches and 2 inches. Turn it, do the same thing again. Turn it again, 1 inch. And when scoring acetate, particularly if it's the heavier acetate like this is, you're going to want to go over this a couple of times. And then the last side, 1 inches. and then again at 2 inches. Okay, so there is that. What I'm going to do, pull this out of the way. What I'm going to do, not that, is I'm going to cut. So I'm going to turn this over and I'll mark on here so you can kind of see what it is that I'm doing. Okay, so we have our lines, our score lines. We are going to cut like that, and like, whoops, that. And then we're going to cut like this, and like this. Okay, so hopefully you can kind of see that on here. I'm going to go ahead and leave this underneath. Try to see which way I was doing it here. Okay, so I'm going to cut right up the score line to the 2-inch score line. Same thing on this side. Go to the opposite side, do it again. Again. Okay, then I'm going to cut here, remove that piece, and then cut here so you end up with this little tab. Okay. Those pieces kind of cleaned up here, and I don't know why those are sticking. I need to clean this off again. Okay, so now this is going to get folded and burnished. So all those score lines, and it's going to go wrap around this piece. Okay, but before we do that, we're going to get a piece of lightweight chipboard. And I'm going to cut this one to 8x8. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mat this with edge to edge with one of the patterns from the New Day paper collection. And I'm not sure which one. Possibly this one, I'm not sure. But you're going to mat this edge to edge. You're going to cut this to 8 by 8 and glue it onto this. Once you've done that, then you're going to take all of those flowers, whether you've made your own like I did, or you've are using, you know, store-bought, so, you know, Prima or something, and you're going to figure out what configuration you want your flowers in, okay? But what you're going to do when you do that and start gluing these on here, you're going to go to the edge and you're going to want to pack these in as tightly as you can. So mine ended up being 8 across and 8 down, but you're going to want to glue those down and cover that entire piece. And I'll be right back. Okay, so at this point, all of the flowers have been glued on a piece of lightweight chipboard that I covered with a piece of patterned cardstock. We're going to go ahead and fold our score lines on our acetate box. So I'm just going to fold and burnish all of these down. I've gone ahead and added score tape on all of these so that they're ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that tissue paper off since, you know, we're kind of to the point where I can't really leave it on anymore. But we're going to go ahead and fold all of these over and burnish. You want to burnish these really well, because the one really cool thing about working with acetate like this, once you like fold those pieces over and burnish them, they're going to stay put. Okay, so I am going to miter my little tabs that we left on the acetate when we cut it. We're going to miter these just a little bit to make it easier for these to fold in when we assemble this whole piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that on all of these really quickly. Nope, we're going to burnish again. And then miter the tabs. And of course, you can always get in here and miter the tabs first. That was kind of, as I started doing this, I was like, oh, I should have done that. And I didn't. So that's why I'm kind of doing it as I go here. Just because it's going to make it easier when they fold in. Okay. So I'm going to fold the tabs in as well and burnish those down. So we're basically just kind of training them where they're going to need to go. And then go ahead and finish burnishing the score lines on the sides here. So as you know, I left this where the acetate box is going to be 1 inch high, because I had measured one of my completed flowers and they were about 3/4 of an inch. And by the time you put this whole assembly on a piece of heavy chipboard and, well, I guess it's medium weight chipboard actually, and so on, that was going to take up pretty much that entire inch. Actually, it ended up being closer to the tops of the flowers than I had anticipated. But since we're doing this with such a wide tab on the bottom, if your flowers are a different size, they're a different height, however it is you decide to do this, it does leave you the wiggle room to adjust where those, you know, that inside set of score lines is, or I'm sorry, not inside, the outside set of score lines is for your tabs, so that your box stands up as much as it needs to, so that you can get your flowers in there. Okay, mitering again. And then burnish the tabs down again on this other side. Okay. So I'm going to take my piece of chipboard that is covered with pattern paper, which you could ended up barely being able to see it, but I'd rather have it covered than not and then be able to see it after it's too late to really do much about it. So I'm going to just start on one side. I'm going to pull backing off of the score tape. And what I'm going to do is kind of slide this forward till I get to the score line right below the score tape. Okay, make sure we're lined up and push that down. Go ahead and burnish it. And then there is the first side. Now we're going to do two more sides, and then we're going to leave one side open so we can slide the flowers in here in just a second. Okay, so I've got tape off of that side. I'm just going to push that chipboard up from the bottom to adhere that all together. Let me kind of reach in as much as I can and kind of burnish that. It's a little bit difficult. I need something longer and sturdier to kind of do stuff like that with. Then we're going to get our third side here. And again, making sure everything's lined up. And push that down. As much as I can reach. And there's that. So now, have our flowers. And that started out being 8 by 8 as well. I've got a cut apart here that I was initially kind of thinking I was going to put directly on the flowers, and finally decided that it needed to go on top instead. But what I did is I had about 1/8 of an inch on one side and 1/8 of an inch on another side on that chipboard that the flowers are glued to, that I was kind of extra. So I did very carefully just kind of measure where that was, draw a line, and with big scissors very carefully kind of trim two sides of that base chipboard. And I know I think I said that was wrapped. It's not actually wrapped, it just has a piece of pattern cardstock cut to the same size and glued on top. So I've put some of my large 1-inch score tape on here because, of course, this is going to be, you know, pretty much an exact fit, but you still don't want it moving around. So I did get some score tape on there, and I'm going to now slide this in. And this is probably going to be the trickiest part to this whole process, is getting this down in the acetate box, because of course you've got that scored. It's going to try to catch on every single one of those flowers. You've got tape on there that you're dealing with at the same time. And then I ended up turning it for some reason, I think so that my tape was running up and down as opposed to side. And again, just very carefully working that down in. And once it gets going, it will slide almost flawlessly down in there. Just kind of pushing down. And once they're down in there, you can actually push on the acetate from the top to make sure everything's good and stuck. So I'm tucking my little tabs in on the sides there. And one of them I was having a hard time with, so I just trimmed part of it off to make it a little bit smaller, a little bit easier to slide in. That's absolutely fine. So I'm sliding those tabs down inside, and then I can go ahead and pull the backing off of my score tape on that last section there and go ahead and put that down. So I'm just getting the backing off, folding that over, pushing it down, and this whole thing is sturdy enough you can actually push on it from this side and it will work just fine. Ready to go. Now that's where my center is gone. Okay, so you can make the main piece of this as wide or as narrow as you want. I went with 5 inches, so this is 5 by 12. I'm going to lay this on here. I'm going to get this even with the bottom here. And then I'm just going to, it doesn't have to be perfectly centered. We're just going to kind of get it close. And then I'm going to mark where that needs to be. Okay. I'm not going to give you exact measurements on scoring on this because you will need to look at yours and see exactly where it lines up. Okay. After you've made your marks, and they may be not quite exactly in a score line or in one of the channels on the scoreboard, that's absolutely fine. Get as close as possible. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and erase my little pencil marks on here. Okay. I'm going to fold and burnish one side. Okay. I'll set this on here. And it is going to be a little bit shorter than I would prefer to try and attach this. Okay. Let's see what I get in here. So I've got about 3/8 of an inch on each side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another 5-inch wide piece of cardstock. So bear with me for just a minute because I'm going to have to cut one. I apparently don't have one sitting here. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing on this one that we did on that one. Okay. Only this time, actually, I take that back. We are going to do this the same. However, before we do that, I want you to set the belly band on there. Okay. This is going to be kind of hard to show you because, but you're going to just take this and you're going to do the same thing again. You're going to draw a line, turn it the other way, and draw a line. And this is where I was saying it doesn't need to be totally exact, but it needs to be close. Okay. So then we are going to cut off that extra. Okay, so wherever my line was, I'm going to go just to the side of it and cut that off. Okay. All right. So now we are going to repeat the process with this piece. Only this time, we're going to start where, let me turn it this way. So I'm going to line up this edge with the edge of the paper. And then I'm going to slide it over till I can just barely not see the paper. Okay? And then I'm going to draw a score line or a mark on where I'm going to score. Okay. So I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to score on my line. Okay. Again, I am going to erase my pencil mark. Because if I weren't doing this on a tutorial, I would have made that mark much, much lighter, but I wanted you to be able to see what I did. Okay. So now this should line up. Okay. So this time we're going to lay it over like this again. Make sure we're up on that side. We're going to do the same thing over here again. Okay. And again, we're going to put it in here. And we're going to trace as close, or score as close to that line we traced as we can get. Okay. Erase our pencil line again. And I just scored it on the wrong side, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. Okay. And then set it around. And one more time, you're going to mark. This time we're going to cut that line. Close as possible. Okay. So now I am just going to lay this in here. Which my line is crooked on this side, but that's okay, we'll fix it. And we're going to lay this over here. I think my top is slightly wider, so I think that's why this is not lining up exactly where I want it. Okay. So we're going to leave it one on there, and we're going to glue. Okay. One line up, side to side, and then you can leave it just a hair above where it's actually like perfectly snug, because we still have to map this, so you don't want this exactly like flush up against. You want it to have a little bit of give. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to have just a little bit of give. And we're going to do the same thing again. Okay. Just a little bit of give. Since this is going to be matted over, it's not really going to matter that I am ever so slightly crooked on my one line over here. Okay. All right. So check for fit. If it's too tight, you may need to adjust it. This would be helpful if you've got like temporary adhesive. Now would be the time. Okay. So this is a little tighter than I would like, but I think it's going to be okay. So now I'm going to bring in my flowers. Okay. So this is going to go centered up on the back. Okay. It may be a hair wider than this, which is fine. That's to be expected because of the belly band. Okay. What I'm going to do is pull up the backing on 2 of my strips. And make sure while you're at it that on the front is facing the right direction before you actually put this down, because that would be bad. Okay, so I am going to get glue on the actual chipboard. Okay. And then I am going to center this up. I got it too far to one side. Whew. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so you have to center it both side to side and top to bottom as best you can. It's not exact, it's not the end of the world, because we do need this to be, that keeps just touching on there before I want it to. So I'm going to try folding it a little bit flat, and I think that's better. Yep, that worked. All right, so we have that. Now we just need to mat underneath here. You can do the entire thing. You can just do strips on either end, like so. It's up to you, but I am going to use that pink dots paper from Cartabella. And I am going to trim this. You want to measure just to be safe. Okay. So that is 8 inches wide. So I'm going to go a 1/16 of an inch below 8. Okay. Going the other direction. We are right at 8 again. So I'm going to do the same thing. 1/16 of an inch under. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off here and here. And then I am going to get glue on the cardstock inside and on the chipboard. Because this is just going to reinforce our belly band. Make sure it stays put on our flowers. Flower box. Okay. All right, so there's that. Make sure my folio is right side up. And that will slide down over the front. And there is your project. Hallelujah, it's done. Other than that, but that's okay. I will do that on camera as I typically do. And there you go. You will have seen the completed project on the walkthrough at the beginning of this video. As always, thank you for watching. If you end up making this, please, by all means, share this in Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations on Facebook. You can also share this on my page, Scrapping Under the Influence. I also have a craft group on Facebook that currently is named I Scrapped Under the Influence, a craft group for all crafters. However, I believe I'm getting ready to change the name. I just haven't decided to what yet. So for now, that's what it is. And as always, you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram under Scrapping Under the Influence, and you can share anything of mine that you make at any of those places. Thank you for watching. See you next time.